Hey, up. Right, what I'm going to do today is on the back of Wednesday's videos. YouTube have got this fantastic new feature where it gives you a complete summary of a video's performance and makes suggestions on what video to make next. And I'm going to try that out this week. Before I do, you might notice I've got a new garage door. My old garage door's been broken for about 4 or 5 years, and about 4 years ago I rang around all the local companies to try and get it replaced. I was quoted £1,100 to £1,200 for a like-for-like replacement. I think that was just for the door, not for the door and the frame. But the whole thing became really problematic with the companies, you know, not coming down to do the quote, not ringing back. I ended up just putting it on a back burner because it was just becoming so sort of time intensive, just trying to get them down here to look at the door. A couple of weeks ago, the next door neighbour had a new garage door fitted, and I approached the fitters. And I've got to say, OXLEY garage doors have renewed my faith in local businesses and tradesmen, because within 2 weeks they've had a guy down to measure the door up and sort of give me some advice on what he thought I needed, and actually get it fitted. It was fitted yesterday in less than 2 hours. The fitters were fantastic. OXLEY's is an old company that's been going here in Hull for years. I know the name well, but I didn't approach them initially because with them being a well-known company with a good reputation, I thought they would be more expensive than everyone else. This is a 4-point locking system, so the door locks on each side at the bottom and on each side at the top, which makes them incredibly difficult to get open. Yet the total cost was about £170 less than I've been quoted before, and that includes the complete new steel frame. So I'm really impressed with OXLEY's. I'll leave a link in the video description down below along with their telephone number, so that if you're ever in a position where you need a new garage door, they do cater for most of the UK mainland. Give them a call and see where you go with them, because like I say, you know, my experience of local companies and tradesmen over the last few years hasn't been a good one, and they've really renewed my faith in you know, in local businesses and the way that they treat customers. It's been a fantastic experience. I'm really pleased with what I've ended up with. I'm really pleased with the price. This is not a paid promotion. I just thought it was worthy of mention. You know, credit where credit's due. Right, take 2. I've just been sat for 20 minutes talking to the camera on this phone. It wasn't recording, so we'll try again. Yeah, new feature on YouTube. It gives you a complete rundown and summary of video performance and why it's performed well, and you know, all the key moments in the video and how people have engaged with it. And it also gives you suggestions as to what the next video should be that you put out. So I thought I would give that a try today and just see how it goes. Now, Wednesday's video did really well. Actually, that is a remake of a video I made about 4 years ago, but the question comes up in comments so often and videos tend to get lost. You know, you can't get to the point where people can't see the trees for the forest. So I thought I would make that video again and re-release it. And again, you know, it's done really well, and that's about the concept of downsizing your motorcycle for touring especially. Now, this raised the usual sort of questions. We'll start with the big one that I get all the time, and that's from the Americans. Now, in the past, I've tried to sort of deal with that, because I'm not telling people what to do in these videos. I'm giving people a different perspective and my reasons for that perspective. I'm not saying to people you're doing it all wrong and you should be doing it my way. I'm just offering you a suggestion to think about. It's up to you whether you take it or you don't take it. But obviously the United States is a huge country, and if you're traveling from one destination, it can involve huge distances. And the big sort of but that I get in the comments when I make videos about touring on small bikes is that a lot of people travel on the interstates. And I've made videos in the past about, yeah, okay, you know, I'll put my hand up to it. I don't live in the States. I love the States. I love the culture, the American culture. It's a place I've always wanted to go to, but you know, whether that'll ever happen or not now, I don't know. But yeah, I'll concede that smaller bikes are maybe not suitable for travelling in the States. And I made a video on that subject because I was constantly getting that comment a couple of years ago. And actually, the feedback that I got from it was very different. Now, there's this idea that you need to be able to travel at 80 miles an hour on the interstates in order to be safe. Now, when I researched that other video, I found there was only, I think, 2 states where 80 miles an hour was the speed limit, and you know, people will travel faster than that. So I sort of get that, but at the same time I don't, because you know, you must have big goods vehicles and just slow moving vehicles that are in the same boat as you. And my philosophy there would be to stay in the slow lane and not try to do something you're not capable of doing. To me, that's just common sense. But when I put that video out a couple of years ago, I actually got the exact opposite of this sort of story, in that a lot of people from the States are saying, you know, if you're touring, you're on holiday, you're out to enjoy yourself, why are you traveling on the interstates? There are some fantastic back roads with fantastic scenery where 50 to 60 miles an hour is the norm. It's, you know, a small touring bike is in its element on those sort of roads, and it's a far more enjoyable experience. Stay away from the interstates. Now, I do the same here in the UK. There are times when you've got to travel on the motorway, but again, you know, there are always back road alternatives. It's easy to stick a sat-nav of some description on your bike and just plan a scenic route that avoids those, you know, those sort of high traffic, high speed zones where your trip is likely to be a lot more enjoyable, because you're able to just drink the experience in rather than battering through the winds in order to you know, get to your destination as fast as you could. Again, it's about managing expectations, and I'm not saying that people have to change their way of thinking. I'm just offering another sort of type of thought regarding motorcycle touring. I mean, I look back to my younger days, and again, this comes back to another question, is carrying a pillion on these smaller bikes. You know, they're not big enough to handle 2 people, sort of thing. No, yeah, I will say that that's a stupid comment on this occasion, because, you know, the engine size has nothing to do with the size of the bike. It's just the engine size. All motorcycles are made for human beings, and all human beings fall within a certain sort of size range. So, you know, if you've got a 125, it doesn't have a very tiny 125 seat. It has a normal seat for normal average sized people. So all these bikes, whether it be a 125, a 650, or in between a 350, they will all accommodate a rider and pillion with ease. In fact, these 3 bikes here, you know, I've had all the big touring machines. These are the 3 most comfortable bikes I've ever owned. Paula especially loves the BSA. That's got the best seat accommodation out of the 3. The Classic 350 and the GB 350S, I would say, are a very close second place to the BSA. But you know, you don't get a much smaller seat because it's a small engine capacity. And by the same token, because your bike is a 1200cc Harley or whatever, it doesn't have this huge seat where you can lay back and get your feet up. They're all within the same sort of parameters. So, yeah, that's a silly comment. I will say that is a silly comment. There will, you know, you always get uncomfortable bikes or bikes with small seats, which is down to the style of the bike. You know, sports bikes and maybe some of your trail style bikes will have a smaller sort of seating accommodation for pillion and rider, but they're not the kind of bikes that I cover on this channel, so that's a bit of a moot point. Now, I've done, you know, back in my youth, 1,400 mile trips on a 125 with a passenger on the back and camping equipment for 2 weeks, and those are some of the best journeys, motorcycle journeys I've ever been. I've never really been fully able to recapture that, probably because as you get older you've got more sort of things to worry about at home with animals and, you know, other sort of duties. So I don't get out to do tours like that so much these days. But, you know, I always look back to some of those journeys where, you know, over the course of 2 weeks we covered well in excess of 1,000 miles on a little bike, and they were really enjoyable experiences. And I never felt as though we didn't have the power. That's something else that often comes into the conversation in comments. You know, a 350 is not powerful enough to carry a Pillion. Of course it is. It will take a little bit longer to get up there. You might have to work the gearbox a little bit more in order to get the best out of the bike, but that is what creates engagement between you and the bike. You know, a big, fast, powerful bike that just does whatever you want at the twist of a throttle without having to change gear. It sounds good in your head before you get the bike, and you know, I've got to admit, I've had bikes like that, and there is a certain enjoyment to having that sort of power available to you. So, you know, effortless power. But for me, it's the engagement that you get with a small bike that is the big draw, because it will do anything that a big bike can do apart from go at hyper velocities. You know, the classic 350, I've had Paula on the back of that on motorways, and you know, I've often looked down at the speedo and found we are exceeding the speed limit a little bit of 70 miles an hour. You know, they will get up there no problem at all. It will just take them a little bit longer to get there, and obviously things like hills and headwinds might knock 5 or 10 miles an hour off your top speed, but does it really matter? For me, no. I just sit in the inside lane and stay there, and you know, I don't try to do anything that I know the bike is going to struggle to be able to do. It's still enjoyable. It doesn't take away from the enjoyment. I don't feel the need to constantly be overtaking every vehicle that I encounter, and in doing that, it frees up your mind and allows you to enjoy it. So yeah, as far as seating capacity and a 350's ability to carry 2 people, it's not even a talking point as far as I'm concerned. The design to be able to do it, 20 horsepower is more than enough for 2 people. You'll find yourself travelling at the same speeds as most of the traffic on the roads. You don't feel as though you know, you're at some sort of disadvantage. So, you know, they're just other things to consider about this mindset that a 350 can't tow. Now, the other thing is luggage. You know, the sort of BMW GSs and the big Harleys frequently come into the comments that you need all this luggage that comes with the bike. Usually it's some sort of ABS molded plastic, or in the case of the BMWs, it's aluminium baggage. Yeah, I mean, it looks very nice, but to me there are too many disadvantages to that sort of hard luggage. One is storage capacity. I mean, presumably on the Harleys you can take it off if you don't require it, but where do you put it? Because it takes up an awful lot of space. I know this from my BMW days, where you take your aluminium panniers off and, you know, they'd take up the equivalent parking space of a motorcycle in the garage while you weren't using them. The other issue with them is just a simple bike topple in a car park can completely incapacitate half your luggage. These things don't take the weight of the bike crashing down on them very well, and it could well put an end to your journey if that luggage gets damaged. It's just so easy to damage it. I favour soft luggage, usually third-party options, because in a situation like that, it usually comes off unscathed. Even if you have a slide, generally speaking, soft luggage will handle that situation far better than hard luggage does. Even if you get a hole in it, you can just fix it with a bit of gaffer tape and continue on your journey. You know, it doesn't put an end to your journey, and you've got options from people like Hitchcock's Motorcycles, for most of the Royal Enfield bikes now, including the larger 650s. You've got options from Long Ride, which I think, to be honest, are probably about the best option available at the moment, providing they do a fitting kit for your bike. I'm still waiting for them to come for an option with the GB350. And you've got companies like Hepco and Becker. You've got Lomo that makes some really keenly priced waterproof luggage that lasts for years. So you don't need to break the bank getting decent luggage, but I would always go for soft luggage for any trip. You've got the security aspect of it. I have locks on most of my bags that, let's put it this way, it makes them just as difficult to get into as it would be if you had aluminium luggage or ABS plastic luggage. It's about the same level of security as far as I'm concerned. Actually, there is one topic that I missed out on that retake, and that is the comments from people saying they buy bigger bikes because they come fitted with fairings and screens, which give better wind and rain protection. Rain protection, not so much in my view. I mean, I've been riding 40 odd years. I've had various bikes, factory fitted fairings on them. I can't say that they really give you much protection from rain. Wind, yes, but again, that can also introduce buffeting. It's a bit of a game of Russian roulette with screens, as far as I'm always concerned. And you can have screens fitted to motorcycles that come without them. There are plenty of options available out there. But the question that always popped into my head when I get these comments is, if you don't like the wind, why are you riding a motorcycle? I think for me and a lot of other people, the whole point of a motorcycle is that sort of feeling of freedom that you get from having the wind in your face. And I know if you're not used to riding a naked bike, initially wind at high speed can be an issue. But I tell you what, your upper body and your neck muscles soon strengthen up so that you don't even notice. I never give it a thought now. About the wind on these naked bikes. It's just a total non-issue for me. If you can't cope with the wind on a motorcycle, perhaps you should sell it and get a car. So yeah, those are the sort of 3 or 4 main points that came up in Wednesday's video. So I've taken YouTube's advice. I've put this together to just try and answer those questions. Viewer feedback, if you like. People just seem to be constantly looking for reasons to discount smaller bikes for touring. If that's your mindset and you want to go for bigger bikes, that's fine, absolutely fine. But what I'm doing in these videos is I'm just offering an alternative suggestion that you might try and you might not like, or you might try and never go back. That's certainly what's happened in my case. Right, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and hype this video if the hype facility is available to you. It does help videos sort of move up in the algorithm and get them noticed. There are other ways you can help me out via my Patreon page, PayPal donations, or the super thanks button. Not essential, but again, it does help me out in creating these videos. I will be back next week, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.